She didn't wait for an explanation. She didn't answer her phone. And somewhere in Atlanta, the world's biggest K-pop star is running through Piedmont Park, praying he isn't already too late. Welcome back to Christmas in Old Town love stories where luxury is decadent, chemistry is addictive, and love never shows up when it's convenient. Let's jump back in. Joo-Won's voice broke through the room. He had run back in. I can't find her outside. Where would Mee-Mee go? Jenny's features relaxed. Piedmont Park. She goes there when she's overwhelmed. Joo-Won nodded once, and without another word he was gone. 20 minutes later, he sat alone in a rental SUV overlooking Piedmont Park. The flowers rested in the passenger seat, still wrapped, still waiting for Mee-Mee. He stared through the windshield. The park was enormous. Families walked their dogs, children played, couples strolled hand in hand. Finding one person suddenly felt impossible. For the first time all day, Joo-Won didn't know what to do, so he bowed his head. Lord, he whispered, please help me find her. His voice cracked slightly. Help me say the right thing. A long pause followed. And help her know the truth. He closed his eyes. A scripture his mother often quoted came to mind. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. For a moment he sat quietly. He said, in Jesus' name. Then he took a breath and started searching. Nearly an hour later he found her. She sat alone on a bench overlooking the kids' playground. Her shoulders were hunched, her hands folded in her lap. For once in her life, Mee-Mee wasn't talking. That scared him more than anything. Slowly he approached. She heard his footsteps but didn't turn around. Joo-Won stopped beside the bench. Mee-Mee, he said, but she said nothing. He sat down carefully, a respectful distance away, still nothing. The silence stretched. Finally he spoke again. Please look at me. She didn't. Instead, she stared out at the swing set. A long moment passed. Then she quietly said, you should go. His heart sank. What? You should leave. Mee-Mee, I saw enough. Her voice was barely above a whisper. For the first time since they'd met, she sounded defeated. Joo-Won swallowed hard, then shook his head. No. A tear slid down her cheek. You don't have to explain. I do. No, you don't. She finally turned toward him. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. I heard her. I know. I saw her touching you. I know. And she looked at you like she was in love with you. Joo-Won closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. Mee-Mee. The pain in his voice finally made her look at him. He exhaled. You didn't see what happened. She looked away. Baby. He reached for her hand. This time she didn't pull away. Never seen you look at anyone like that, Joo-Won. He frowned. Like what? Like you'd seen a ghost. A sad smile crossed his face. Because that's exactly what she is. Mee-Mee looked at him. A ghost. A ghost of a person I didn't like being. The words hung between them. Then Mee-Mee quietly added, she was touching you. I know, and you didn't move. Joo-Won sighed. I was in shock. I hadn't seen her in years. Mee-Mee looked away, still hurt. His voice softened. I know. A tear slid down her cheek. You know, she said. The old Mee-Mee would have marched right back into that loft and snatched that girl bald. Despite everything, Joo-Won huffed a quiet laugh. I had my earrings halfway off, Vaseline on deck. Joo-Won actually laughed a little more. Mee-Mee shook her head. But I've changed. Her voice became serious. I worked too hard for this life. Then she looked directly at him. And I worked too hard for us. The vulnerability in her eyes nearly broke him. If there's a part of you that still wants that. Her voice cracked. Then just tell me. Joo-Won immediately reached for her hands. No, there is not. She searched his face. There will never be, he said. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. Ingrid on FaceTime. Mee-Mee answered. Ingrid? Ingrid appeared on screen looking completely unbothered. Mee-Mee, is Joo-Won with you? Yes. Good. Ingrid adjusted her glasses. Ms. Kang has been released from her contract. Mee-Mee blinked. What? Oh right, I almost forgot. She was working for me. Ingrid nodded. She failed to disclose a previous relationship with Mr. Park. Joo-Won groaned. Ingrid continued. Additionally, all 4 former bandmates described a pattern of obsessive behavior where Mr. Park was concerned. Mee-Mee's eyes widened. 4. All 4. A pause. One called her Delulu. Jenny's voice suddenly appeared from somewhere off-screen. Add me to the list. She blessed she got out of there when she did. I was about to take it there. For the first time all afternoon, Mee-Mee laughed. Ingrid continued. She intentionally engineered today's encounter. The smile vanished from Mee-Mee's face. What? She knew Mr. Park would be arriving. Silence. Then realization hit. She set me up. Correct. Mee-Mee slowly turned toward Joo-Won. The hurt in her eyes disappeared. Now she looked annoyed. Very annoyed. She shook her head. I knew something was off with her. She was cute and all, but definitely sus, gave off weirdo vibes. Joo-Won laughed. Nah, stop the cap, you liked her at first. Mee-Mee pointed at him. Don't laugh, I'm sorry. No, you're not. I'm really not. Then she grabbed his hoodie and kissed him hard. When they finally pulled apart, her lips were breaths away from his. I'm sorry. You don't owe me an apology. I kinda do. You don't. Mee-Mee smiled. I love you. His answer came instantly. I love you too. By the time they returned to the loft, the mood had completely changed. Mee-Mee decided to cook Southern style, one of her other many incredible talents. The kitchen smelled incredible. Mee-Mee lifted the lid from a pot, short ribs. Joo-Won's eyes lit up. My favorite. I know. Well, a man can't fight off crazy ex-girlfriends on an empty stomach. 5 minutes later, his plate was completely empty. Mee-Mee stared. Dang, boy, you slaughtered that. Joo-Won laughed. It was delicious. Mee-Mee folded her arms proudly. Wait until you taste my mama's cooking. Joo-Won paused, then smiled. I'd like that. Later that night, Katrina sat alone in her hotel room. Her phone rang. She answered immediately. Is the breakup news spreading? Silence. Then her manager sighed. Katrina. Her stomach dropped. What? They know everything. The confidence vanished from her face. What do you mean everything? I mean everything. A pause. And for the record, I am not arguing with that, Ingrid. Katrina growled. Her manager continued. I enjoy my employment with the agency. The call disconnected. Katrina stared at the screen. Alone. Fired. For the first time all day, reality finally caught up with her. The next morning, sunlight spilled across Mee-Mee's midtown apartment. Joo-Won walked into the kitchen with only boxers on and immediately stopped. Mee-Mee was standing at the stove making breakfast. She was wearing the oversized tee he had planned to wear. Her long braids were piled on top of her head. She was singing softly while stirring eggs. For a moment, he simply watched. Mee-Mee turned around. What? Joo-Won shook his head. Nothing. She narrowed her eyes. You a lie. He laughed, then said, You look beautiful. Mee-Mee blinked. The compliment caught her completely off guard. Boy, please. I'm serious. He walked over and wrapped his arms around her waist. But you're always beautiful. His chin rested on her shoulder. But this, he gestured toward the oversized shirt. This might be my favorite look. Mee-Mee laughed. Your favorite look is me stealing your clothes? Absolutely. She turned in his arms. What happened to all those supermodels you work with? I don't remember any of them making me breakfast. Mee-Mee smiled. Good answer. She kissed him, not a quick kiss. Definitely not a shy kiss. The kind of kiss that reminded them why they hadn't gotten much sleep the night before. When they finally separated, Joo-Won gave Mee-Mee a look like he wanted much more. Don't start, she laughed, knowing it was time to help Jenny at the loft. Who, me? Joo-Won raised his hands as a defense. Yes, you, she laughed. I wasn't doing anything, he whined, but also couldn't stop laughing. Mee-Mee pointed the spatula at him. You were about to. Oh, I absolutely was, he admitted with a devious smile. Mee-Mee chuckled. I can't believe I thought you were quiet. His grin widened. I'm just trying to behave. Mee-Mee laughed so hard she nearly dropped the spatula. Joo-Won looked at the stove. Are those pancakes? They were. What happened? Mee-Mee glanced over her shoulder. Smoke was rising from the pan. A super fine man distracting me is what happened. Joo-Won laughed. I thought the expression she can burn was supposed to be a good thing. Mee-Mee said, Don't play with me. But Joo-Won didn't waste time with a response. He just stole another deep kiss. Some days later, the flight to Seoul felt different than any trip Mee-Mee had ever taken. Usually she traveled for business, or adventure like her cousin Mel's bachelorette party the year before on that private island. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, which is when Mee-Mee and Joo-Won first met, it's linked in the description below. But let's get back to their flight. This trip felt different. This trip felt important. Her emotions were all over the place, but she was mostly excited. As their car pulled up to a modern high-rise overlooking the city, Mee-Mee looked out the window. I thought your parents lived in a house. They did. Joo-Won smiled. They moved a few months ago. Mee-Mee looked up at the building. A condo. A senior community. He smiled. I'm still getting used to it. Mee-Mee reached over and squeezed his hand. I get it. So this is a little new for you too, he nodded. A few minutes later, they stepped inside. The apartment was beautiful. Clean lines. Soft colors. Everything perfectly organized. Mee-Mee suddenly became very aware of her bright pink dress and her bright personality. Baby, she whispered, looking over herself. Yeah, Joo-Won said. Do I look loud? Joo-Won laughed. You are loud. That's not helping. It'll be fine. And then under his breath he said to himself, I hope. Then the door opened. And there they were, Mr. and Mrs. Park. Joo-Won had given her a quick crash course in bowing etiquette, but when she leaned over to greet them, she tripped up and almost lost her balance. "Oh, Lord," she said. Joo-Won's father immediately caught her elbow. She looked up and squeaked out hello in Korean as best she could. "Annyeonghaseyo." Joo-Won's dad smiled. "Welcome." The first hour was awkward. Not bad. Just more awkwardness. Mee-Mee presented the gifts she'd brought from her online boutique. Joo-Won's mother carefully unfolded one of the hand-painted scarves. The colors were bright, very bright, extremely bright. Mrs. Park blinked, once, twice, 3 times. Mee-Mee immediately panicked. "Oh no." Joo-Won looked over. "What?" "She hates it." His mother looked horrified. "No, I don't," she said in English. Mee-Mee was shocked she could speak it. Mrs. Park wasn't fluent, but since she studied the language years ago, she understood well. Mee-Mee pointed. "You blinked 3 times." Mrs. Park stared. "Is that bad?" "Where I'm from, it means somebody hates what they just saw." For the first time, Joo-Won's father laughed. A real laugh. The tension immediately broke. The real breakthrough happened in the kitchen. Mee-Mee wandered in to find Mrs. Park preparing dinner. "What are you making?" "Si gumchi namul." Mee-Mee nodded. As if she knew exactly what that meant, she did not. Mrs. Park smiled knowingly. "It is spinach. We use it as a banchan," she thought for a second before explaining, "a small side dish." "Oh," Mee-Mee brightened, "we do greens too." Mrs. Park looked curious. "Greens?" 2 hours later, they were still cooking, still talking, still laughing. Mrs. Park showed Mee-Mee how she seasoned spinach with sesame oil and garlic. How they were using the spinach as a base layer for bibimbap. Mee-Mee explained collard greens and using the pot liquor for that extra special flavor. "Pot liquor?" Mrs. Park questioned. Mee-Mee smiled. "Liquid gold, the broth left in the pot, so good. We just need some cornbread." Mee-Mee told her about smoked turkey, family cookouts, church dinners. By the time dinner was served, both women had completely forgotten they were supposed to be nervous. Joo-Won watched from the table in amazement. His mother took a second helping of what Mee-Mee prepared beside her, then a third. His father quietly looked at Joo-Won, then nodded. It was a tiny gesture, but Joo-Won understood exactly what it meant: approval. Later that evening, Mrs. Park appeared in the living room holding folded blankets. It was bedtime. Joo-Won were sitting close on the couch. She looked directly at her son, then at Mee-Mee, then back at her son. "No." Joo-Won blinked. "No." "No." Mee-Mee immediately started laughing. Mrs. Park pointed down the hallway. "Separate rooms." "Umma," he pleaded in Korean. "No." "But." "No." Mee-Mee laughed so hard she nearly fell off the couch. Mrs. Park pointed again. She said in English, "Separate rooms," and then again in Korean. "Understand," she said. Joo-Won raised both hands. "I surrender." 2 weeks later, they landed at the airport in Richmond, Virginia, and drove to Petersburg. The fact that they were meeting her family finally hit Joo-Won. In the back of the lift, Joo-Won took a deep breath. Not incredibly noticeable, but of course Mee-Mee saw. She gently rubbed his back. Somehow she always knew what he needed. The moment they stepped through the front door of Mee-Mee's childhood home, the volume increased by approximately 1,000%. There seemed to be an army of people waiting to meet him. "There he is." Mee-Mee's mother practically tackled Joo-Won with a hug. "Lord have mercy, he's even prettier in person." "Mama." "What?" "He is." Joo-Won looked completely stunned. Mee-Mee's father shook his hand, then pulled him into a hug too. "Welcome to Petersburg, son." Her cousin Dee dapped him up. "What's up, twin? I really mess with your music." Then her other cousin Alonzo jumped in front of him. "No, this is my guy. What's that song?" Then Alonzo started loudly singing, "You bring the honey, I bring the money." Joo-Won's eyebrows shot up. Then Alonzo was gyrating and moving his hips. But even with the craziness, all Joo-Won could focus on was the acoustic guitar strapped to Alonzo's back. Another cousin, Adrian, slid in front of him. "Every time I see the ops online talking about you two, I clap back." Then she proceeded to take 100 selfies with Joo-Won, who was still basically at the front door. Hadn't even made it past the welcome mat. Mee-Mee gently pushed them out of the way. "He's not here for all that." But Joo-Won just laughed, one that he really needed. Within 20 minutes, Joo-Won had been fed twice, asked 17 questions, shown 4 family photo albums, and informed that he was already considered family. Much later that evening, after the family spilled out of the house, Mee-Mee's mother appeared holding a wooden spoon. That was never a good sign. Now listen, she said. Everyone froze. I don't care if you're famous. She pointed the spoon. I don't care if you're K-pop or K-soda. Under my roof, we are holy. Another point. I don't care if you're on every billboard in Times Square. Joo-Won nodded respectfully. Yes, ma'am. You two are sleeping in separate rooms. Mama, said Mee-Mee. Nope. Mama, we're grown. But your daddy and I pay the property taxes. Mee-Mee immediately lost the argument. Joo-Won's shoulders shook with laughter. The spoon turned toward him, and don't you laugh either. His smile disappeared instantly. Yes, ma'am. The room erupted into laughter. Joo-Won realized something. Meeting Mee-Mee's family felt surprisingly familiar. Different language, different traditions, different food, but the same love, the same protection, the same desire to see their children happy. And as he looked across the room at Mee-Mee laughing with her parents, he knew with absolute certainty what came next. Late that night, long after everyone else had gone to bed, there was a soft knock on the door to Mee-Mee's childhood room. She opened it and immediately started laughing. Joo-Won stood outside looking entirely too pleased with himself. Mama's gonna kill us. Probably. Mee-Mee shook her head. Then why are you here? He offered his hand. Take a walk with me. A few minutes later, they found themselves beneath a canopy of stars. The Virginia summer air was warm. They were in the backyard. Crickets sang in the distance. For a while, neither of them said anything. Then Joo-Won stopped walking. I wrote something. Mee-Mee smiled. A song, he nodded. Then he started singing. His voice was quiet. Not Stadium Joo-Won. Not Kairos 5-boy band Joo-Won, just Joo-Won. The lyrics began, airport gate, your hand in mine, boarding call, we fake a smile, you say. I'll text when I land. I hold my breath, unlatch your hand. Everything feels wrong when you're gone, empty rooms where the light stays on. This song was different, more personal, more permanent. Joo-Won continued singing about their future, the family they'd build together. Mee-Mee's hand moved to her mouth. Oh my gosh. She started to understand. Joo-Won kept singing. His voice trembled slightly now. He was starting to look nervous. He finished with Mee-Mee, be my home, Mee-Mee, marry me, every day, every year, be my forever, please, Mee-Mee, be my home, in your arms, I know, different worlds, same heart. You are where I go, Mee-Mee, be my home, Mee-Mee. Stay with me every day, every year, I choose you endlessly. The tears started before the song even ended. Mee-Mee was crying openly now. Joo-Won took a slow breath, then lowered himself onto one knee. The world seemed to stop. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then he reached into his pocket, the ring. The one he had designed months earlier, the one that had been waiting for this moment. Mee-Mee Thomas, his voice cracked. Immediately she started crying harder, which somehow made him laugh, and then made her laugh, and suddenly they were both emotional disasters. I had this whole speech planned. Mee-Mee nodded through tears, suddenly unable to speak. Joo-Won continued, I forgot most of it. She laughed. He smiled. Something tender flickered across his face, and he became completely serious. Mee-Mee, before you I thought home was a place. A tear slipped down his cheek. Now I know it's a person. That did it. Mee-Mee completely lost whatever composure she had left. He held up the ring. Will you marry me? She didn't even let him finish. Yes, a beat, then louder. Yes, another beat, then, boy, if you don't put that ring on my finger. Joo-Won laughed so hard he nearly dropped it. A moment later, the ring slid into place. Mee-Mee stared at it, then at him, then back at the ring. You did good, she laughed before launching herself into his arms. He caught her instantly. As you said, Mee-Mee, gotta give the fans what they want. She laughed at this, and under a sky full of Virginia stars, they kissed, neither noticing the curtain moving in a nearby window, or the silhouette of Mee-Mee's mother watching, satisfied, smiling, and immediately reaching for her phone to start a family group text. Several minutes later, they finally stopped kissing long enough to remember they had families. Your parents, my parents, they both laughed. A few moments later, Joo-Won was holding up his phone. Mrs. Park answered immediately, as if she'd been sitting beside the phone waiting. The moment she saw Mee-Mee's face and the ring on her finger, she gasped, then screamed, then disappeared from the screen. What happened? Mee-Mee asked. Joo-Won's father suddenly appeared. For a man who rarely showed emotion, he was smiling from ear to ear. Your mother is crying. In the background, Mrs. Park could be heard shouting something in Korean. Neither of them could stop laughing. Then she reappeared on camera, still crying, still smiling, and immediately started talking about wedding food. Mom, Joo-Won laughed. We got engaged 5 minutes ago. The next afternoon, the Thomas family did what they always did when there was good news. They fed people. By noon, the backyard was full. Joo-Won had been invited to the cookout literally and figuratively, and every aunt there tried her best to overfeed him. A few minutes later, when Joo-Won was finally beside himself, Mee-Mee's father walked over carrying 2 bottles of water. For a moment, neither man spoke, then Mr. Thomas handed him one. "You know," he said quietly, "when you called me a month ago saying there was something you had to ask me, I figured you were serious." Joo-Won's eyes widened. Mr. Thomas continued, "Son, you don't fly halfway around the world to ask a father for his blessing unless you're serious." Joo-Won smiled. "I wanted to do it the right way." Without warning, Mr. Thomas pulled him into another one of those famous Thomas family bear hugs. The kind that threatened a person's ability to breathe. The kind that somehow made you feel loved and mildly injured at the same time. "You did, son." Joo-Won laughed a little breathlessly. "Thank you, sir." Mr. Thomas nodded. Alonzo, who was playing the acoustic guitar that Joo-Won had borrowed to propose, gave him a head nod. "What's up?" Joo-Won returned the head nod. Mr. Thomas, pleased with everything, pointed toward Mee-Mee. "Take care of my girl." Joo-Won smiled, always. A short distance away, Mee-Mee watched the exchange. Her heart melted. Then her mother appeared beside her carrying a tray of food. "Oh, he passed the test." Mee-Mee blinked. "There was a test. There are always tests, but the hardest one is surviving your father." Both women burst out laughing. Across the lawn, Joo-Won caught Mee-Mee's eye. She smiled. He mouthed, "I love you." She said, "I love you more." And somehow, despite the crowds, it felt like they were the only 2 people there. The wedding date would eventually be set for Christmas Day. But that, well, that is a story for another day. This has been Christmas in Old Town, where ambitious women, unexpected love, and the holiday spirit collide. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Hit the notification bell and fall in love with our stories. More romances are coming, all happening in the city of Petersburg. The more people subscribe, the more love stories we can tell. Join our Patreon for exclusive behind-the-scenes access as we bring our actual Christmas romantic comedy to life. You'll find all of the information in the description. The more you support, the more love stories we get to tell. And if you're new here, you've got some catching up to do. In Petersburg, the mayor's inner circle is full of brilliant, dynamic women, and each of them finds love at Christmas. Be blessed, and have a very merry everything.
Airport gate, your hand in mine. Boarding call, we fake a smile. You say I'll text when I land. I hold my breath and let your hand. Everything feels wrong when we're gone. Empty rooms where the light stays on. Late night glow on my face. Video calls are saving grace. I miss you beside me, your whispers, your beautiful face. When the whole world feels too heavy, you make it light by staying steady. Meet me, be my home. Meet me, stay with me. One more flight, then I'm done. I choose you endlessly. Meet me, be my home. Every room, every road. I was lost in a crowd. You're where I unfold. Collard greens by mama's stove. Kimchi on the table, set for home. 2 customs at one little spread. Same respect in the words they said. Both our moms gave the same advice. Put God first, it's what's right. You make me laugh, it's a better life. Cooked your love into every bite. Different countries, different names. Different stories, different fame. But your laugh keeps calling me louder than my history. Thousands of fans that scream and see. Still felt lonely till you found me. Meet me, be my home. Meet me, stay with me. One more flight, then I'm done. I choose you endlessly. Meet me, be my home. Every room, every road. I was lost in a crowd. You're where I unfold. I see us grow old in your life. New gray hair, same stubborn path. We'll have kids in midnight. I choose you endlessly.